Hi, it's Dr. Michelle, and I'm going to go over the Dutch test today. Just in case you haven't already activated your online patient portal called Practice Better, please go to your email and double check for an email asking you to activate your account. Once you've activated your account, in Documents, this is where you will find your test results, all your supplement recommendations, diet and lifestyle recommendations. I'm going to go over the Dutch test. It is a complicated test, and we do encourage you to book a consultation with some of our Dutch experts to go over your exact test. However, I'm going to go over the nuts and bolts of how the test works. The way the dials work is you're in the center and you're the little triangle on the circle. You want to be in between the low yellow star and the high yellow star. If it is below the low yellow star, your triangle will turn yellow. If it's too high, it will turn red. Ideally, you want to be within the green range, usually somewhere in the middle. The purple is just for postmenopausal women, as some hormones are supposed to get lower as we get older. However, for the most part, we're looking at the dials as they fall in the green. This is the layout on the first page of all of the tests. It summarizes what's going on with your hormones, and then it's looking at what's going on with your cortisol. When we're talking about cortisol and DHEA, what we're talking about is the adrenals, which is basically how the brain tells the adrenal glands to secrete stress hormones, which are cortisol and DHEA, in the times of stress. And hopefully we're able to balance these all out so we're not stressed out all the time and secreting all these stress hormones all the time. We have free cortisol, which is our active form of a stress response in the moment, and then we have our free cortisone, which is how we store it when we're not using it. Typically, the liver bounces these back and forth, so we take an average of these readings as we come up with your programs to see what you're needing. And back to the first page of the test, we're zooming in on what the cortisol is doing. This is why the Dutch test is more informative than blood tests, because blood tests just take a mark of what you're doing in the morning, where the Dutch test looks at the cortisol throughout the day, which is much more telling of what's happening. So we wake up and then we look at the morning, afternoon, and evening. Then we have the free cortisol and the metabolized cortisol. The free cortisol is our active form of cortisol, which is what we can use right in the moment, right now. But metabolized cortisol is actually a much more accurate marker of our total output of cortisol, which really shows us how much we're spending in our energy bank account. So if it's really, really high, we're spending our cortisol way too much and we're probably stressed out and inflamed. And if it's really, really low, we're probably burnt out also because we're just really not making enough cortisol to get through the day. A lot of our supplement programs are very focused on trying to get your cortisol metabolism healthy, because if you don't have good energy, you're not going to make good hormones. Then we have our hormones, starting with the androgens, which are considered male hormones, even though females have androgens. It starts with DHEA, which is an adrenal hormone, and then it turns into testosterone, which becomes a sex hormone, and then we detoxify it to try to get out of our body. Looking at the downstream metabolites helps us understand what's going on with PCOS in women and prostate issues in men, along with hair loss and a lot of other things. Progesterone will be only shown on the female tests. We're looking straight at the levels and the metabolites. And then estrogens are both male and female. We're looking at E1, E2, E3. They're all different in their function, and it helps us to see not only how much we're making, but almost more importantly, how well we're getting these out of our body. If we don't get estrogen out of our body, we can get a lot of oxidation and a lot of issues with estrogen buildup. The green pathway is the 2-OH first one. We want most of our estrogen to go down that green 2-OH pathway. We really only want very little down the red pathway and very little down the 16-OH blue pathway. The pie chart helps us see what our distribution is, where we really do want more down the green. This person has too much of blue and too much of red. And we have products to help you do this. And this, of course, keeps your body clear from any estrogen types of damage. Phase 2 estrogen detox has to do with a gene called the COMT, where we're trying to methylate estrogen out of our body. And if it's slow or low, we're going to have a lot more estrogen buildup, like we see in this graph. And then ideally, we want to get that higher, which is something we do with a lot of our supplement products. On the last page of the Dutch test is called the organic acids page, and this is measuring some nutritional markers, some neuro-related markers, and melatonin and oxidative stress. You can see if your B12 or your B6 is a little bit deficient. You can look at biotin and glutathione and dopamine, and it's very helpful to look at these through urine because we're seeing what we're absorbing. So a summary, we're looking at the adrenals, we're looking at our sex hormones, we're looking at progesterone for women, testosterone, estrogen, we're looking at how we detoxify our estrogen, and then we can look at organic acids to see if there are anything specific about nutritional deficiencies. We do encourage you, if you can, to book a consultation with one of our Dutch experts to go over your specific test in more detail. Thank you. I hope this is helpful.